She was kind, always tried to fit in wherever she was at.
Loved her children more than anything.
I promised myself I wouldn't do this. Sorry.
It's okay.
State police were on the scene of a house fire in Sykesville, Jefferson County all day Thursday, and now they're looking for the woman who lives in that house. They say they're looking for this woman, 33-year-old Joey Lynn Offutt.
Police immediately thought that Joey was on the run.
She did not leave the house on her own free will.
I don't care about the person anymore. I don't care about what they did. I just want her names.
New home, new town, new baby. Joey Lynn Offutt had entered a new chapter in life in the summer of 2007. Having stayed with her sister, Loretta, for the past year and a half in Warrenton, Virginia, Joey was ready to finally have a place of her own for her and her 3 children in the cozy nest of Sykesville in Jefferson County, Pennsylvania.
She loved that house. She was so excited about it.
And it was important for her to be closer to Alexis, the father of her newborn and 2-year-old daughter. The pair had a rocky past, but they were working on things for baby Alexis Jr., born on June 3rd. And now that he was a few weeks old, they were eager to introduce him to Joey's family. So they drove down to Warrenton a bit earlier than planned. A visit welcomed by Joey's sister, Tracy.
I held the baby. Joey seemed fine.
But Joey's pregnancy had worn on her. She felt exhausted and needed help with the kids. Before heading back on the 1st, she left her 8-year-old daughter with her mom, who planned to take care of her for a few weeks.
I think the last time Mom actually spoke to her was on the phone.
Nothing represents the peak of summer better than the 4th of July. Alexis and Joey planned to celebrate the holiday with his family up in Clearfield. Soon after they got home from Virginia, they had an argument over how to properly bathe baby Alexis Jr. Seeing she needed a break, Alexis took their older child home with him for the night. But when he drove down to pick Joey and Alexis up for the 4th, there was no answer at the door.
If Joey would get kind of down, or if she had a lot on her plate, she would not answer the door. It was not unusual for that to happen.
Joey had a developmental disorder that caused her problems when establishing appropriate boundaries in relationships. A part of this was to isolate herself when she felt overwhelmed, a behavior that usually only lasted a day or 2.
That's why no one felt the need to call the police.
But once a few days passed, they started to worry. Alexis drove back down to Sykesville to see if Joey was home, and while there was no answer, he noticed something.
He said that when he went to the house, he saw car seats and her purse.
It was strange that her things were in the same place, untouched, but due to Joey's history, no one was alarmed. He decided to try back again the next day and found Joey's red Saturn 92 missing from the driveway.
He goes, well, we know she's okay because her car's, she's taken her car out.
It wasn't until July 11th, after she didn't answer the door for her home healthcare nurse, that the family became alarmed and asked Alexis to write a note, warning Joey that if she didn't contact them by the next day, they'd call the police.
He put the notes up and we all waited, nothing happened.
At around 4 in the morning, July 12th, the Reynoldsville Fire Department received a call that a home on Fugate Drive had burst into flames. It was Joey's house, but she wasn't there.
You have a structure fire, and we can't locate the residents.
Around the same time police were called to investigate, Joey's fiancée Alexis walked into the department to report her as missing.
And I said, well, Alexis, Mom and I are on our way up. There's been a fire. Because they just told me. Of course, when we arrived up there, it was chaos.
While Joey couldn't be located, her newborn's remains were discovered in the home, and police discovered that the fire was no accident, but arson. The house soon turned into a local spectacle, making it difficult for Joey's sister and mother to even get there.
I see these, plainclothes people, and literally sitting in lounge chairs, believe it or not, at the intersection of the street she lived at.
It's just unusual that you have a house that burned and there's not somebody standing outside worrying about their belongings, that kind of thing. So,
And to make matters worse, officers immediately believed that Joey had a hand in her own disappearance.
I know that, based on statistics and everything else and protocol, I know that you have to.
A theory that her family went back and forth about, but eventually rejected. Not only was Joey dependent on them, but she was inseparable from her kids. To leave everyone behind just didn't make sense, even if she did do something terrible.
And if she's on the run, he is going to call. That didn't happen.
So once her car was discovered 70 miles away, everyone started to fear the worst. On July 16th, police found Joey's red 92 Saturn at the Nittany Garden Apartments in State College, the place she once lived with her fiancé, Alexis.
It was backed in perfectly straight, and the entire family told the police that wasn't her.
Joey's family said she was notoriously bad at driving, hardly able to park a car, much less back into a parking spot. But even more strange,
the driver seat of the car was pushed back and then leaned back.
Joey was barely 5'1" and wouldn't be able to drive a car like that.
I told him that wasn't her. Sorry.
For the family, the car confirmed that Joey didn't leave on her own. But police weren't so sure, and some relatives felt they'd stop their search because of it.
No matter what they thought, why are they searching?
Causing the family to go against police orders and talk to the media in order to get some extra help in finding Joey.
They got mad at me and my husband because we actually drove to Altoona and were interviewed by the TV station there.
We know that somebody out there knows something. It's been 4 weeks, and it's time for somebody to help.
The family says their frustration grew when police cut off all communication with everyone but Joey's mother and older sister, Loretta, triggering a family rift that had started over the decision to move Joey to Pennsylvania in the first place. The initial few weeks were all about finding Joey, but as time went on, more pressing issues started to come up, such as cleaning the aftermath of the fire.
We had a little bit of a deadline to get that mess cleaned up.
Furniture, clothing, and miscellaneous things from the house were strewn across the lawn for neighbors to look at, and they started to get curious about undamaged items.
I just remember my mom getting phone calls from people in the area asking for certain things.
Although it seemed insensitive, the family could use all the help they could get. They could hardly afford to even haul the junk out.
I mean, we're talking over $10,000.
And the price of the home, which required a demolition, was far over their heads. But the Catholic church across the street had been eyeing the property and made a deal with the family to buy it. This is the spot where Joey Offutt's house once stood. It's now a parking lot for the Holy Trinity Byzantine Catholic Church. There's a small memorial for her and her child, whose remains were found here, but you'd never guess what really happened here. And maybe that's what the community wants, is to forget. But Joey's family can't just forget, and her disappearance has impacted the lives of each and every one of them.
My mom has not slept not one decent night since this happened.
From custody arrangements that broke apart her 2 surviving children,
The girls got split up.
to keeping her sister from making any major life changes.
That little tiny what if is always in the back of my head.
To this day, Joey's family has absolutely no idea what could have happened to her. The bizarre twists and turns of her story have them second-guessing every clue.
I think with each theory that we've had about her case, it makes sense up to a point, and then it doesn't make sense.
But they all share the belief that foul play was involved. In 2016, Joey Offutt was pronounced legally dead. Now, the hope is that a lead will come along that will bring them to her body to generate some type of closure. Joey's sister has promised not to bury baby Alexis Jr. until Joey can be buried with him.